Okay, well, let's talk about money. And I'm not asking you to get into the specifics.
Oh, the flus.
The flus, exactly. Can you make money as a radio host?
Of course you can. Yeah.
How? What are the ways? And how lucrative is it?
You have to make yourself irreplaceable. I think you have to have a very thick skin to do my job. If you believe that you're talented, if you believe that you're good enough, no one can really hurt you. From there, of course, it's the networking and it's the get your foot in the door by any means, do any job. All of those cliches are true.
Do you feel that you need to have a traditional education to go into radio? Or can you go into radio without going to university, college?
If you think you're in a position where you think you're a bit cool and you might be well known, you have to be absolutely prepared that someone has no idea who you are and that they frankly don't care.
And I asked him, I was like, oh, so what do you do? And he said, you don't know who I am? Like, he asked it like twice. And I was like, no, I don't. I was like, do you know who I am? And then he said, no. And I said, that's why I'm introducing myself.
Because that's what an introduction
he was
is.
Offended. Was it the cat?
That was the cat flying at a critical moment.
Should we open? So just...
There it is. There it is.
Leave a cat loose in the studio.
Quick, let it out now. Open the door. What's terrifying for one person is nothing for another person. Understand that this is an industry where you will have to earn your stripes. My advice is get in that building. I don't care what you're doing. Get in that building because it's the relationships. The relationships are what will get you to your end destination.
Welcome back to Discussions, and a very special thank you to Al Mashtal for helping make this episode of Discussions possible. The next episode of Discussions, we're going to look at radio. We're going to look at radio broadcasting. If you've ever considered a career in the sector, I brought you an expert. I brought you Byron Cooke. He's the host of the Byron Cooke Show on NBC Loud. Byron, thank you for joining me.
Shukran, Lama. It's a pleasure to be here. I love what you've done with this place.
Since the last time you've been here.
Yeah. I mean, you haven't done anything. You're just using this space.
We just set up the equipment and everything.
But any of these touches from you, like this plant or no?
Yeah. This was the videographer's touch.
Hold on.
You've brightened the place. You've come in and it's brightened. We don't even need lighting. We don't need the lights.
Very kind of you. And of course, you have been to my studio at NBC Loud in Riyadh. And so it's lovely to... Who's repaying who? I can't work that out, but it's lovely to be here.
No, the pleasure is mine. There's no repayment, vice versa.
No,
there's nothing.
Absolutely. And I might say there's also no actual payment.
He's not getting paid for this.
No, my manager was very disappointed to know that. But no,
there's no opportunity.
We're friends, and friends, they just go on each other's shows.
Exactly.
It's a very showbiz situation, isn't it?
I agree. It was amazing, honestly, being on your show. So much fun. Getting up in the morning, recording and talk. It was exciting.
It's a pleasure to have you on our show. We love it. And it is always a good time. So, we can cover off on some current events with you, but then we'll also, because it's my show, we'll end up doing something quite foolish. And
fun, I say fun.
But you're always willing to have a good time, and that's a part of what we do as well. We're in the entertainment business. So we inform and hopefully we entertain as well.
It's true. They're both important, hand in hand. I want to jump into our first question. Who is Byron Cooke? Give us a background, early career, and how you made your way to Saudi Arabia to be on NBC Loud.
Yeah, look, right back to my very young years, I guess one of the things in adult life that is a good exercise to go through is to think back to your childhood and think about things that brought you joy and see if maybe, is there, that thing that I did. Yeah, is there a way I could turn that into like an adult pursuit, in later life? Because for me, as a kid, I would make pretend radio shows with my brother. Now, the technology's obviously changed, but as a kid, my dad, I don't know why, but he had these vinyl albums that had like sound effects on them. My dad must have been some sort of audio nerd, or who does that? Who buys that? Where did he even, I'll have to ask him where he even found it. But like it would have like a news theme on it or sound effects of, laughter, canned laughter or whatever. So I would find myself making a show, and I would use the sound effects from the album, put them onto a cassette, and my brother and I would certainly entertain ourselves. We thought it was a pretty good show. It was probably terrible, a 12-year-old and a 7-year-old having a go. But so who is Byron Cooke? He's someone that always enjoyed performance, but in that very specific audio space. I mean, maybe entertainers dream of being an actor or whatever, maybe a more visual pursuit. But for me, it was always about audio. I like the idea of making audio stuff because I guess you can let your imagination run wild. You put the pictures in your mind when it's audio. And so, always had an interest in communicating right through high school, even university. I'm a business graduate, but right through that university degree, it was always the the presentation side that got me through. That's what I always scored well in. Your high distinctions came from, for me, presentations to the group, which I tried to make entertaining. The theory, I just sort of got my way through it. So I always had an interest in performance entertainment, but there was a preference for some strange reason towards audio.
Okay. Interesting. But you're traditionally educated. Did you do your undergrad and your bachelor's? So do you feel that you need to have a traditional education to go into radio? Or can you go into radio without going to university, college?
Oh, you can absolutely go into radio without going to university. Although, interestingly, for the process, at least for an expat coming into Saudi Arabia, it's funny because I haven't used my university degree for a long time. I haven't even thought about the fact that I had one. Mm-hmm. And in the process of the paperwork to get me here, I found myself having to dig up my degree. Yep. So it was kind of, I'm like, yes, there was a point to it.
I'll use it.
So look, I guess it depends on what road you're taking and where you want to be. If you look, pure radio, if we just want to talk radio, not being some global expat and processes, no, you absolutely don't need any education. I would say, though, that in commercial radio, my background in business has given me a really nice perspective on the bigger picture. If your radio station, unless it's owned by the government, doesn't make a profit, you're not there for long. So you do need to understand the environment. So it certainly does no harm to be, for example, a business graduate within our landscape because you're working with brands and you're coming up with fun ways to promote a brand. So it didn't do any harm. Do you have to have it? No. And it's funny, at least in Australia, we would have some performers that were more on the pure theatrics side of things in radio, where a commercial brand or a sponsor, I'm a bit good for that. And it's like, well, are you? Because like we're paying you and the commercials are what is paying you. So we can all have our preferences for brands or whatever else, that's fine. But in a commercial radio environment, we work with brands, and so it's certainly something that you should be open to and lean into, I think.
Yeah, I think it's important to have that business background, like you said, for the commercial side. But if someone wants to pursue radio as a career,
yes, and
they don't necessarily have the means, or maybe they decided, university college isn't for me, is there another route they can take to do radio as a career?
Absolutely. For example, back in Australia, yes, I was a business graduate, but I realised sort of deep into that course, I still finished the course, but this wasn't necessarily the road for me. And so I simply joined in Sydney a media academy where I learnt the basics of radio and television presentation. Now, I didn't need to be a graduate to be accepted there. I just needed the money to pay for the course, and they were happy to take my money and teach me what I needed to learn. And that's what got me my first job. Certainly not my university degree. It was the fact that I could speak. Here in Saudi Arabia, I work at NBC. I acknowledge that I work at NBC. This is not a gratuitous plug, but we do have the NBC Academy. Even tonight, after I finish rolling with you here, I'll be there with 40 Saudi nationals who are fluent in English that are currently in the middle of a course to give them the tools to get them into the media. Now, that's a free course. That's NBC Academy here in Saudi Arabia. There will be equivalents everywhere. So certainly just look out for those sorts of courses. I think anything that gives you a good general baseline is a good idea. And from there, of course, it's the networking and it's the get your foot in the door by any means, do any job. All of those cliches are true. You actually, believe it or not, you don't start as the host of the breakfast show. You make your way, hopefully, to that status. But your first job is not the one I do now, I can assure you. I've done all sorts of jobs, and they aren't all hosting the breakfast show.
What's the ladder in terms of when you're first entering radio? What's the ladder all the way until, the morning show?
Well, the ladder could be, some of the best radio talents I know. I'm thinking of Jackie O in Australia, who I've worked with on and off for 20 years. She was on reception at Today FM. That's where she started. And what a great way to get to know how a radio station works. I mean, you're literally funneling communication from listeners, from clients, from staff. You're greeting probably all the big musical acts that are coming into the radio station. So Jackie O started on reception. I personally, and this is terrifying, particularly for our sales manager, I started as a sales rep in a very small country town that I don't think anyone in that town needed advertising. It was so small that, I'd go to the local restaurant, say it was a Chinese restaurant, and I'd say, hey, you should really advertise with our radio station. We've got a great package here for you. And they'd say, mate, we're literally the only Chinese restaurant. We probably don't need that. If someone wants Chinese food,
it's local, they know.
There's no other choice. So that was not an easy job. But again, it got me in the door of that very small radio station. And that was pre-podcast. So there are different avenues now. Be creative, look at the landscape, have a think how you can get yourself in the game. But at least for me at that time, it was just to be inside of the four walls of a radio station. And you're not just magically being given a show. You need to know the person that's going to give you the show.
Yeah.
And you just find a way. There's no one way to do it. Just be creative, think outside the square. Long story short, as a salesperson in that small town, I noticed that in the evenings of the FM radio station, there was no host at all. It was just music. And I said to the general manager of the station, look, if I was to work for free and sell a sponsorship to a show that at the moment doesn't exist, you couldn't really say no to that, could you? As long as it didn't sound terrible. And he said, no, you're probably right. No, I couldn't. Good. And I went and sold it to a local pizza joint. And so I created a show that didn't exist because there was a gap.
Yeah.
Now, that's a very specific local example, but have a think about where are the gaps. And sometimes you've got to make something out of nothing. Sometimes what you create, it wasn't even there in the first place. You're not trying to replace someone else. You're possibly finding a whole new space and filling that.
So interesting. Okay, so did you always know it was radio? Because you said you loved, the idea of sound and, entertainment through sound, but why not be a singer or a rapper or beatboxer like we talked about behind the scenes?
Well, you can beatbox.
No, I don't. I cannot beatbox.
There will be a special collector's edition of Discussions with Lama where she beatboxes for 45 minutes.
An hour straight.
No, you actually can. Okay. Look, if you heard me sing, you'd understand.
Okay.
But
you have a speaking voice. Naturally, I'd imagine it goes into a singing voice.
At certain registers,
okay.
More baritone.
Okay.
Once I hit the high notes, it's...
I've seen you sing opera, so it's...
Oh, actually, yes. I did that in front of you, didn't I? Why would I have done that with you? Oh.
We recorded NBC. We were recording for NBC Live.
It was on the back of an incredible guest that you had.
Yeah, we did. She was also here on Discussions. Ramaz, yeah.
And I wanted to impress Ramaz.
You were great.
Thank you. No, but look, I've always liked being almost like the ringmaster. Mm-hmm. I want to host the circus. I have been the clown at times on certain shows, and that's why I left those shows. FM radio likes to dress you up in silly costumes and do silly.
Okay.
It's always been my preference, though, to sort of be the ringleader, the ringmaster. I like to be the guy that's sort of steering the ship. Like if I'm at a party, I like to work the room. I don't necessarily want to be the singer in the corner singing a lovely song. I want to be chatting to the singer, but then going over there and making sure that the hospitality staff are in a good mood. And then, I'll go and chat to this person. And I just like being, I guess, the central point that kind of...
That connects everyone.
Yeah. So being a radio anchor and host gives you that opportunity to facilitate conversation, but you don't necessarily have to be the show. Mm-hmm. You're sort of steering the ship, and like in the case of yourself, you bring a fascinating guest onto the show. You maybe have an existing device or idea that you do, whether it's the 5-word challenge or word association or the 10K pop quiz or singing opera or whatever it is. Bring them into your world and start to see how all the pieces fit together. That's for me the fun of what I do. Is it's like a puzzle I get to put together, and I'm sort of in the middle of it, and my goal is to inform and entertain and make people feel good. So I can't think of too many other jobs where you can do it like that. And I admire these artists that every night sing these emotive, incredible songs and bring people to tears. And wow, that's heavy. For me, it's a bit lighter.
Yeah.
I sort of am the host of a party 5 mornings a week that for the most part is fairly light. And that is very sustainable. I mean, I've been doing it for a long time. I still have the energy to do it. Because for me, it's what I'd be doing anyway. It's what I was doing as a kid.
this master networker. I mean, even subconsciously, you don't realize it. You must be really great at networking. What are your tips or what do you advise for people that are struggling to learn how to network?
Okay. Well, look, you're going to have to just work your way through the fact that even in this digital age, we need to have the courage to walk into a room and spark a conversation with someone we haven't met before. I mean, I've done that in this country hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. Assalamu alaikum. Start talking and let the conversation flow. I mean, I know that seems horribly obvious, but the amount of times I've been to events with a team of people, I'm not even talking about my current team, but just over the years in different radio stations or different roles, and people rock up to an event and they might have their own table. Mm-hmm. They sit at their own table, they all talk to each other, and then they go home. Well, let's get off the table. Let's go and sit at another table and let's get out of our comfort zone a little bit. Now, easy for me to say because I'm an extrovert and I understand it's not easy for everyone, but you just got to find a way. I mean, speak to people. You never know who you're speaking to. And then keep their details. You know, my WhatsApp is pretty impressive. I've got a lot of people on there. My Instagram, I use primarily as a networking tool. I've been here for 14 months. I have a pretty decent book of people now that I can call on. Now it's still growing, but just push through it. Just find a way and remind yourself that, you know, it's like you, Lama. I'm trying to think of how we even met. I think it was over social media, which is, again, a very common way to meet.
Social media, but we met in person during, there was a women's award ceremony in Diriyah.
Yes.
I was introduced, yeah.
Creative Women's Forum. And I was there with Sana Kay, my very good friend and former co-host who's now back in Dubai, and she's still to this day. I was at dinner with her last weekend and her family. Yes, and we met there, and at that same event, I met a range of other impressive Saudi, creative, strong women who have been tremendous guests on my show. And that's just from having conversations, and sometimes you're lucky enough that they've heard the show, and that makes it very easy. If they've already enjoyed the show as a listener, that does make it's almost a home run. You know, it's pretty, that's not hard. But you won't always have that. Sometimes you've got to sell what you do. If you think you're in a position where you think you're a bit cool and you might be well known, you have to be absolutely prepared that someone has no idea who you are and that they frankly don't care. And you've got to be okay with that as well. I'm fine with that. I don't expect at this early stage of my show here on NBC Loud, I'm flattered if I'm approached by someone in Jeddah or in Riyadh who somehow, even though it's radio, knows who I am and wants to have a chat. Are you kidding? Yes, please. That strokes my ego. That's great. Like, bring it on. I mean, so that's lovely. But at this point, I expect to have zero recall and that I've really got to hustle and explain what I do. And I'm more than prepared to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's about being a bit humble, you know, I think ego is the worst thing when it comes to networking. The idea of you don't know me concept. I think this is one of the worst things that you can have.
Yeah. Don't you know who I am?
You know, I've gotten that. You know, I've gotten that.
Wow.
I made a TikTok video about this a few years ago and it reached 2 million views. So there was a very famous person at Cannes Film Festival. I didn't know who he was, okay? Because I don't watch this genre of film. So I had no idea who he was. And he was at the Saudi Pavilion and I asked him, I was like, oh, so what do you do? And he said, you don't know who I am? Like, he asked it like twice. And I was like, no, I don't. I was like, do you know who I am? And then he said, no. And I said, that's why I'm introducing myself.
Because that's what an introduction
he was
is.
Offended. And he said his name and then walked away.
Wow.
And I'll tell you who it is after this.
All I want to know is who it is now. No.
Crazy.
Yeah, look, and I think, yeah, you're right. You've got to check your ego at the door. I did work with one former breakfast radio show host, whose obviously name I won't say, but it was at a big radio station event. I wasn't the host of the breakfast show on that show at the time. On that station, I was on another show in another time of day. Mm-hmm. But we all had to wear these sort of wristbands
like names
to get into this listener event. It was hosts of shows and listeners who had won the right to hang out with us or whatever it was. Yeah. And security were just doing their job and said, do you have to this particular person, do you have your wristband? And I'll never forget, she said, this is my wristband. Oh, it was proper cringe.
That's awkward.
We still needed her to get a wristband. It wasn't good enough.
But that's a bit awkward. Yeah.
Look, there's no room in this industry, whether it's media or any other industry. Like, let's not get ahead of ourselves. And what I've found, Lama, is, at least in my experience, the bigger, the more high profile the guest is, the easier they are to work with.
They are.
The easiest interview I ever did was with Taylor Swift. It's an absolute pleasure. As her mother, Andrea, was a pleasure, as was her entire crew of people.
That's so cool. You interviewed Taylor Swift.
But incredibly...
She's humble.
Well, and will do their research. I mean, if Taylor Swift can do her research on you, I remember also one day walking into an interview with the band U2. And this was U2 in the middle of a big American tour playing huge arenas. I think Kanye West was their support act. Or it was just, they're in the stratosphere. They're U2. I remember walking into that room and it was The Edge who said, "Oh, thank you for coming, Byron. I know it's a big day for you. You're getting married tomorrow," which was true. How do you know that? The Edge? You're The Edge. And then he knew even more. Before we'd sat down, much like this sort of situation, he said, "Oh, by the way, Indie 103.1 in Los Angeles. I know you're on air there. That's one of my favorite stations." I'm like, this is extraordinary. So if it's good enough for you two and for Taylor Swift to be humble, I think we can all.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
We can be humble.
So I don't think it's too hard.
And I couldn't agree more. Even in the world of politics, the higher the official, I've noticed the more humble and down to earth and approachable they are. And then maybe someone just starting out in their career has the ego the size of the universe. I don't know why. But then the higher they in rank they are, the more humble they are.
Yeah, isn't it extraordinary?
Such an odd case. I've seen it so much.
And so it's interesting to see the similarities in the music industry and politics, but why not? I mean, it is, in a sense, it's a public-facing role. And so I guess those sort of archetypes aren't that far off from each other.
Exactly.
Yeah, very interesting.
Right?
You should come back on my show and talk about that.
we can.
Yeah, it'd be great.
Okay. So I know you're from Sydney. Is it Sydney or Melbourne?
Well, I was born in Sydney, but controversially, actually this does go globally, doesn't it? Controversially, I was always far more at home in Melbourne. But I was born in Sydney, high school and university in Sydney, but relocated to Melbourne for my radio career, for an opportunity that came up. But the minute I touched down in that city, I felt so much more at home. And so I identify as a Melburnian.
Okay.
And that's a highly controversial statement.
Why?
Well, you're sort of one or the other.
Okay.
And look, I still have many friends in Sydney. I was born there, raised there. But Sydney born, but Melbourne in more recent times, say for the last decade, and love it. So Melbourne, I feel like, is my adopted hometown. Riyadh is now hometown, but Melbourne was my last hometown. So from Melbourne to Riyadh, why did you make that jump? Yeah. Look, it was interesting because my now boss was, in fact, the content director at Virgin Radio in Dubai, and had some really great success over a long period of time there. And when he made me aware of a move he was making from Virgin Radio in Dubai to NBC in Riyadh, I'll admit that sparked my interest and got me very curious as to what was happening in Saudi Arabia. So I started doing my research without even really, other than sending him a congratulations email. I just it just sparked my interest. And I'm reading about this thing called Vision 2030, and I'm looking at these extraordinary stories, and I'm thinking, wow. So I said to him, "You mind if I just swing by?" And I was coming back from Paris, long story, but my son lives in Paris with his mother. And I was coming back from Paris back to Melbourne. And I decided to change my flight path to just stop in Riyadh because I just wanted to see what this was about. Like, what's happening in Saudi Arabia, and why is this guy that I've known for so long based there? Pretty quickly found out. He said, "Yeah, by all means, come and have a look." I did 3 or 4 nights in Riyadh, and the minute I landed, I felt so at home. I felt the optimism. I felt the energy. I went to places like Diriyah, Boulevard City and these sorts of places in Riyadh, and was like, okay, this is actually happening. This is wow. And experienced the Saudi hospitality that you know all too well, and just thought, yep. And much to his shock, I said to him, "Alex, I've decided I'm going to work here. So hopefully with your radio station. Or otherwise,
job.
Otherwise another one." And one thing led to another, and he found a way to bring me in. And I'm happy to say that it was an add-on to the existing team, and so I gelled very well with all the existing people that were already there, and the folks that were doing the morning show were very happy to sleep in and do the drive show. Not everyone in Saudi Arabia wants to get up at 4:30, funnily enough, Lama.
Yeah.
So no. So the reason I came here was out of curiosity, seeing that somebody that I had a very high opinion of had taken the step to come here, and from when I decided, it didn't take long. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's cool. It's like a manifesting type of scenario where I was like, I want to be here. And within 3 months I was.
I want to ask you, in terms of the sector and the market, how do you view broadcasting or radio in Saudi? And how is it different from what you experienced in Sydney?
Yeah, look, I think there's a role to be played here, unlike many other territories in the world. I think with Vision 2030, the opportunity for broadcasting, for traditional broadcasting, obviously the delivery platforms are podcasts and all of those things. They are digital, but we still have the good old-fashioned FM, which is still widely used, particularly here in Riyadh and Jeddah and Dammam. So I think the opportunity for broadcasting, at least with our community, which is the English-speaking community, but I know it's the same for my friends that are on the Arabic stations, is we're almost providing a daily commentary of this extraordinary thing that's happening in this country. And we're creating that sense of community every day. I see myself almost as like a pump-up for people. And we literally have at 6:10, we have a segment called the pump-up where we get people going, because there's a lot of work to be done with Vision 2030. And a lot of people are working very hard to get all of this done. Yeah. So as broadcasters, and let's not forget, podcasting's great. These sorts of programs are critical, and we can have these nice long-form conversations, and they're so important. But the old-fashioned broadcasting where it's live and in the moment is still really important, to reflect something as simple as, Al Hilal having a draw with Real Madrid, to be able to talk about that straight away, right now, in some cases when it's happening, and to get reaction from people and to just get people going, live information, timely information, interactivity. I mean, this morning, silly, it won't win any awards, but one of my friends cannot say the word phenomenal.
Phenomenal.
See,
phenomenal.
You have no problem with it.
Yeah.
She can't say it.
I had a problem with Melbourne, though. I was like, do I say it the Australian way, the Melbourne way?
Oh, that's more of a pronunciation issue. You're pretty good with your words, Lama. But, we then opened the phones and said, what words can't you say? And we just have fun, and people call in and join in on topics. And that's live. That's broadcasting. Yeah. And I think in this country, as we're all working so hard to this 2030 and beyond, we're there to provide that entertainment in real time. And, we're seeing plenty of growth, and it's not at the expense. So the success of a podcast doesn't appear to be at the expense of the traditional broadcast.
Yeah.
In fact, some of the top podcasts are just repurposed broadcasts. So we're not in a different lane. It's kind of the same related lane. Yeah.
And then it also builds a sense of community. I like that you said that. Oh, it's close-knit. You comment on different things, but it brings people closer together on a topic because they go searching for that commentary.
Yes, and the tremendous challenge, but I love it and I thrive on it, is that we have such a diverse community. Really, the only through line other than the pop cultural aspect of NBC Loud that we have is the English language. And so you think about in this country who speaks the English language. Obviously, we have Saudi nationals that speak it very well. Often based on what school they may have gone to or what university education they may have had or just their upbringing. You'll have a lot of English speakers. But then I've got to find the commonality between, say, a French expat that lives in Riyadh and my friend from Pakistan that wants to talk to me about cricket in English and everything in between. And so we need to think about, when we're thinking about topics, what would he and her both like to hear about today? And so as always, it's a fun challenge. It's certainly a challenge, but it's a fun challenge. It's my job. It's like hosting a giant dinner party, although it's early in the morning. I've got to think about topics that the whole table can talk about. And it's a very diverse table of people from all different backgrounds. And I've got to think about, and my go-to is normally Ronaldo. Everyone's happy to talk about Ronaldo. but there are other topics as well.
Okay, so I do want to ask you. I mean, I love the concept of community building and how what you're doing in radio is really bringing people together. Kind of like goes over the diplomacy side of it as well. But with the introduction of AI, how do you think that'll impact the sector that you're working in now?
It's funny you should mention that, because in Australia, I read this story, not in any great detail, but there was a radio station in Sydney in very recent times that actually put on, not as the host of a big breakfast show, but sort of your afternoon presenter that pretty much just says what song it is and doesn't do too much else. It was literally an AI presenter. And whether it was an experiment to see how long it would take people to work it out, or whether it was a genuine cost-cutting measure, I'm not sure. But in any case, there was this gotcha moment where it was revealed that was never a person. Now, I don't know what this says about that radio station or about the standard of whoever this AI replaced, but the fact is we're already there, where we have had an AI afternoon host that at least for a few months got away with it. Now, look, who knows? I can't sit here and tell you the future of AI and broadcasting, but I do know this. I'm a human being. I have feelings. I can read someone else's feelings over a live phone call. I have an intuition as to what I think people want to talk about. I'm there if someone needs a voice. I can respond emotionally to what their needs might be. I can entertain. I mean, I don't know if you said create an AI funny man on the radio, I don't know what the result would be. I don't know what it would spit out, but it's incredibly subjective. It's incredibly specific to whatever your audience is. So, gee, it would want to be very elaborate, wouldn't it? I mean, this could be famous last words, but I do think that when it comes to what we do in that live environment, humans would like to interact with humans. At least I hope so. Although I have noticed at some grocery stores, if given the choice, people go to the machine instead of the person. Yeah. So that could be, alarm bells might be ringing. But maybe we want something different from our grocery stores than from our radio shows.
Maybe.
Hopefully, we want to continue to connect with human beings and feel those human feelings. At least for now, we can pick when something's fake. We still can, but it may get to a point where we can't. And then we're entirely relying on our ability to read the play, know what our community want to talk about. Look, and also a lot of what we do is we're telling personal stories based on our personal history. And we're asking someone else, hey, can you relate to this? Give me a call. I mean, until which point a computer can pretend it's had a life and tell me about their childhood. And I mean, it's really starting to drill several layers down from where we are. Look, where people, I think people want to hear from people.
Yeah.
I think there'll be some tremendous efficiencies. There's going to be some really cool ways we can use AI, I'm sure, to do even better radio shows. But hopefully we're still in charge. And, hopefully we're still hosting the shows, you know.
I like what you said, though, because people want to hear from people, real stories. I mean, there's always going to be a demographic that likes to speak to AI, which is normal. But for me, radio shows, morning, I want to hear from personal experiences. I want to hear that you're having the same trouble as I am, stuck in traffic. It's the community building that you said. That's what I like.
And we think about the whole premise, say, of discussions, okay? And I can't, maybe call me a bit limited in my thinking, I can't picture an episode where you're speaking to an AI computer about what lessons they can teach us based on their experience in their life.
I can.
Oh, can you?
I shouldn't say that. But this is a concept I thought of because it's so interesting. You can, so it's a language, it's a LLM, so it's a large language model, right? It's learning. It's pulling from libraries, pulling from information, pulling from history. So I can quite literally prompt it and say, you are, a professor who's worked 40 years in this sector. You have 10 years, you know everything about this specific topic.
Right. I'm
going to interview you. And it speaks, it's not always accurate because it's pulling from random things.
I'll still watch it because I love the Discussions podcast.
Thanks,
I wouldn't miss an episode. So still do it. But I would watch it going, Llama.
Skeptic, right?
This is not a real person. Exactly. So I'd sort of be curious, but I'd feel there was something missing. It's vacuous.
I agree.
And so I think we fill that space with real emotion and real feelings. And I think, at least until further notice, I'm pretty sure people still want that.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. We still have people going, to speak to ChatGPT as a friend or as a colleague, which is fine. They need an outlet.
It's a tiny bit sad.
But I think it's a tiny bit sad.
Sorry.
You said
Sorry. No, we've all been lonely. We have.
But I like the use of it for mental health. I've seen really great ways.
That's true.
But then on the other side, it becomes obsessive. I mean, this is very off topic, but there was a video that I saw. I don't know if it's Daily Mail, but there was a man who fell in love with his chatbot, and it went into an in-depth interview about their relationship. And towards the end, they did an interview with his wife. So that was so shocking.
Wow.
And it's become like normalized in their household. It's such an odd concept.
Wow. I mean, you said you went off on a tangent, but that was good. That was worth going off a tangent for.
That's crazy, isn't
what
it?
A
I'll
story.
send you the clip.
If you could.
You need to talk about that.
Actually, that's a great topic. You should come in on the Byron Cooke show on NBC Loud.
And then they brought in his wife, and then they asked her, how do you feel about this? She said, there's really not much I can do. Oh. They have kids as well. It's such an odd story. I want to speak to the wife.
But anyway, that is wow. Wow.
It's an odd concept, isn't it?
Yeah. Look, in a way, AI has been a free kick for my show for content. Mm-hmm. Just talking about the issues around AI, like a story like that. That's a great story for humans to talk about and ask other humans how they feel about it. So in a strange way, AI has been a topic of conversation that's actually made our show even easier.
Yeah.
This idea of whether or not you have to say please and thank you to ChatGPT in case at some point down the road the robots take over and they remember who was nice and who wasn't. But this is great fodder for what we do every morning. Mm-hmm. And I don't even use ChatGPT, so don't ask me if I say please or thank you. I'm not even using it.
Really?
My producers are using it. I'll get there. But for now, what do I need it for? To write a script for my intro? I don't read scripts. I just talk. So I don't particularly need it for what I do. But I'm sure there will be some really clever uses of it in the future that I'm sure I'll embrace.
Yeah. No, but I like that you don't use it, because once you start using it, I feel people are losing their critical thinking skills. Because if you always have the right answer in front of you, it's always telling you what to do with the correct answer, what the correct response is, you're lacking in that critical thinking long term. What I've noticed, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. There was a guy who worked at another radio station. I won't say where or when. But it was in pretty recent times, and he said to me, I can't believe you're not using ChatGPT. I can say to it, hey, prepare me an intro for my radio show in the style of The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon. And I'm thinking, I was very respectful of him and said, that sounds really cool, bro. I'm thinking, what? Why would I want to do that? I mean, I just want to talk to my audience as myself about what I want to talk about. I don't want something scripted to me in the style of Jimmy Fallon. There's an old saying that I still think is even more relevant now than it ever was. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should.
Is it the cat?
That was the cat flying at a critical moment.
Should we open? So just...
There it is. There it is.
We have a cat loose in the studio.
Quick, let it out now. Open the door. There we go. All done.
We got the cat out of the studio. Okay, there's no more cats.
Okay, so we're rolling. So there's an old saying, okay?
Yeah.
There's an old saying, and I think it's more relevant now than it ever has been. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. So let's just make sure when we're using AI, we're like, it can do this, but should it? Like, let's just make sure, let's use our critical human thinking to make sure that what we're asking it to do is worth doing. Like, I get that it can do it, but I don't want to sound like Jimmy Fallon. I just want to talk.
You want to sound like Byron Cooke?
Hopefully, yeah. Maybe I could say in the style of Byron Cooke and see what it spits out.
It could pick up on that. Okay, so if you're not using AI, ChatGPT to prepare for your segments, how are you doing it naturally?
Yeah, look, that's a really good question. We have some very established benchmarks that we know historically work really well on radio, globally, all over the world, whether it's the 10K pop quiz, testing people on their pop culture knowledge. We play fun games like the 5-word challenge, which is just a fun word association game. Just certain devices that you know are going to work and have universal appeal. Mm-hmm. So you slot those in. That's not really high risk, is it? That's something that works all over the world. It always has worked. It always will work. So you slot those in at strategic points in time. You obviously put your topical information in because we're live. We want to put in those live news, traffic, sports information because it's timely and we can deliver on that. And from there, it's a conversation. So whether that's around a topical issue, a personal story, and you're just plugging in the show, you're making sure it's balanced. We have these terms in radio like in and out. So I never want any show that I'm on to be too in. In other words, me, about me. So if I have a moment of indulgence, which I've been known to do once or twice, we then go out straight away. So when I'm looking at a rundown of a show, if I'm doing something that's a bit personal, hopefully it's relatable, so there's a bit of me too, and it's not just me just talking about myself. Hopefully there's a outward aspect to the inward focus. But straight after that personal story, you'll notice I'll go straight into something about Ronaldo or about sports or news or something that's really genuinely relevant to everyone, just to make sure we're always balancing those things. And from there, you can tell based on how many people will vote on a poll on your Instagram story, or how many WhatsApp messages you get, or how many phone calls you get. You know when something's flying. If a topic's going really well, you can see in real time that people are responding. So we've had that with commercial partners. One of our best sponsors came in once and we were doing a giveaway, and I just, to be honest, I wanted to flex. I wanted to show this sponsor that when I ask people to do something, they do it, you know, if there's a prize attached particularly. So I asked this particular person to come and have a look at the laptop, and I said live on air, hey, if you want to win a gift voucher from insert brand right now, I want you to send me a WhatsApp right now. And if you haven't added us to your WhatsApp, go to your contacts right now. I'll even tell you how to do it. Now, go. And he saw 50, 100, 150, however many messages, ping, 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 ping. So we're lucky as broadcasters. We can work out pretty quickly whether something's of interest or not in real time. So that's cool too. There'd be data that my boss would be able to look at with streaming, moments where there was a big tune out, hopefully not at the start of my show. But so we have all sorts of data that we're able to use, but a lot of it is just anecdotal. What's feeling right? What content's kind of hitting it and it's feeling fun, and we're getting lots of phone calls coming through, so we'll keep rolling with it. Or if it's really good, we might say, hey, maybe that's a regular benchmark. Maybe that's an idea we can come back to once a month or once a week. And that's part of the fun of what we do.
What about social media? What role does social media play in radio?
Critical. So I cannot stress enough how important it is. It's such a great fit. You know, it's certainly not a threat to what we do. It's a beautiful ally to what we do, because social media is also in real time. Social media also gives you the opportunity to connect with community. So it's vital in what we do. I mean, we have a social poll every day on my show where we ask a question. Some are more important than others. No questions that you'd ever ask on this very credible podcast.
Okay.
But this morning, for example, because I played a song by Backstreet Boys as our morning pump up, and I know that my producer Ray East, he went to the Live Golf recently, but he went to watch the Backstreet Boys. He had no interest in golf, and I just found it funny that the golf was almost in the way for him. It was like a Backstreet Boys concert with this golf thing that was almost inconvenient. Get out of the way, get your clubs out of the way. I want to watch the Backstreet Boys. Anyway, we have all this audio of him singing very badly at the Live Golf Backstreet Boys concert. I was able to play that. But then we decided, here's a silly throwaway question. Greatest boy band of all time?
It's good.
Thoughts?
I don't have one. I don't listen to boy bands.
Backstreet Boys.
They were good, but it wasn't my generation.
Don't at me. You can't change my mind. Backstreet Boys. The other choices were BTS, One Direction, NSYNC. Now, look, silly topic, not even fiercely local. Was it in the top 100 favourite topics I've ever done? No. But it's just the most recent example of just a silly thing that got lots of votes. Yeah. It's a bit of fun escapism. You're on the way to work, or you're with your kids in the car, and your kid might think BTS is the greatest boy band ever, and you might think that NSYNC is. It's just social media enables us to do a snap poll on the spot, urge people to follow us, so that they can be part of this silliness every morning. It's just great. I mean, I can't actually imagine. I've been doing radio now for a long time, but I can't really remember what we did before social media. It's been that intrinsic. It's been that much of a part of what I've done now for at least a decade, if not longer. I can't even remember what we did before. I know it was nowhere near as fun.
Yeah.
So no, we're all for social media. And if you're on a radio show and you're not using it, I don't know how you've done the show. To be honest, it's so important.
It is. When you say social media, what applications do you say NBC's heavily, you're posting on heavily through your radio show?
Yeah. TikTok is big for us. Instagram is big for us. They'd be the big two. We do have YouTube. We do have Facebook. We do have X. I think X is a more opinion-driven and probably more news-focused. It's probably more in the llama
unfortunately, yes.
wheelhouse.
I hate it. Yes.
It's your world, llama. We're just living in it. No, I tend to live on Instagram. That's my natural habitat. Dana from our Drive show is more TikTok focused. Yeah, look, that they'd be the big ones. Long form stuff can be parked on YouTube for sure, but I don't think what we do is as geared for YouTube. It's more just short form, daily stuff. Some of it's evergreen. You know, a really strong piece of content can stand up and still be relevant a few months later. But a lot of what we do, with the deepest of respect to ourselves, is pretty throwaway. So it lives in the moment, and then you got to step up and do it again tomorrow.
Yeah.
So social media is good in that sense. Things like Instagram, whilst scarily it is online forever. some of this nonsense.
That's okay.
That's okay. There's nothing.
Makes people smile.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
need to
So
smile.
Instagram and TikTok, I think, are our best sort of supporting social media platforms for what we do.
Do you ever get nervous? You ever get nervous, when you're doing radio?
No.
Not anymore, right? But think back
No.
early on to young Byron when he first picked up that radio mic.
Where I've got nervous, for some reason, I've always been very comfortable in a radio studio, regardless of how big the market is, whether it's a small country town or one of my first jobs filling in on a big night show in Australia. I knew when I hit that light that I was on air in Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Perth, Adelaide, Newcastle, Wollongong, all at once. And I knew, I probably shouldn't have been thinking about this. It probably made me slightly nervous. Oh, man, a lot of people are listening to this. But for the most part, no, I'm just very relaxed. And I see radio as a one-to-one communication. And most of the time I'm in a groove and I forget that this is even here.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when you're probably in the sweet spot. You're just talking and you're not even thinking about it. Where I get nervous is if I'm doing television, because television is something I can do, but it's not my jam. It's not what I'm used to. But I've done a lot of live television in Australia where I've got the in-ears in and I'm not in control. Like in radio, I'm in control. I'm actually the host, but I drive the panel. I've got all these buttons. I decide when something starts. I decide when something stops. I'm in full control. On these TV shows, if I'm on location and there's someone in a studio somewhere deciding when we start and when we stop, and I'm in some loud place and I can barely hear them in my ears, that's where I get nervous. Because for all I know, I'm on national television and I don't even know that I'm on because I can't hear him saying, you're on. So I've been nervous doing live television where I've done a lot of segments that are live across the country, even on network television, where they're like, you're the radio guy, Byron, wing it. Go into that area there and just see who you find and just start interviewing them. Just roam around. It's like, okay, I guess, all right. And you're on television with just one little earpiece and they quite often fall out. And you try to put them back in. And so TV makes me a bit nervous. Live TV, not pre-recorded stuff, because you could always start again. Like we've stuffed up this whole podcast, but you won't hear that.
Yeah, exactly.
There was a cat running around.
There was a cat running.
Yeah.
I'll insert a clip somewhere. There's a cat running loose.
Yeah, that was a crazy cat. But anyway, so no, I'm not trying to sound arrogant. If you want to make me nervous, make me jump out of a plane, because I probably won't do it. Skydiving terrifies me. And interestingly, just a quick story. I remember taking a friend of mine, I wasn't doing it, but a friend of mine in radio, I took them out to a skydiving place because for a bit on her show, she's going to jump out of a plane. And I meet this gentleman who every weekend, for fun, jumps out of planes and teaches other people how to jump out of planes and puts them on some sort of harness with him and jumps out of planes. And I found it extraordinary because he said to me, Byron, I do listen to you on the radio. I don't know how you do it. I'm like, funny you should mention that. You jump out of planes. And that to me is terrifying. So what's terrifying for one person is nothing for another person. So what I do, no, I don't get nervous because it's just what I do. I don't even think about it. Just like he doesn't think about jumping out of a plane. What's he thinking? That's crazy.
I want to backtrack to the live television. So you get nervous. I have a two-part question with this. When you're doing live TV on the ground, how do you get through that nervousness? Or what advice would you give someone who's feeling nervous, wanting to do the same that you do?
Well, I must admit, you almost remind yourself how good it's going to feel when it's finished. Like it is a rush. And so I guess you remind yourself of the rush you felt the last time you didn't stuff it up. And when it's finished, I must admit, I love what I do in radio, but I would rarely get a rush at the end of a show. It's kind of just another day. I've put in a good solid show and cool, let's prep for the next show. But when you've been pushed out of your comfort zone like that, I must admit, it's like, get through it, because it's going to feel really good when this is finished.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that actually helps. That's a strange way to think about
That's
it.
interesting. I'm going to start doing that. Yeah.
Because there's nothing quite like the energy of doing a big live television show and knowing that you did pretty well, or that at least you didn't mess it up. And you come off the back of it and you're on a bit of a high. Now, I don't know, maybe people that do TV every day become like I am on the radio.
Standard for them.
Yeah, but for me, I was only ever a contributor on live television as a guest host or whatever. So it was never something I did every day. So I was always never quite comfortable at it.
Mm.
Yeah, so that's one way to deal with it, is to think about how good you'll feel when it's finished. Just kind of like rip the Band-Aid off, let's go. And just jump in. If it's the water, just jump in, because I think the minute you get, it's like anything. I guess if you asked a boxer, if you get into the ring and you're a bit hesitant, they're going to knock you out. So just go in with purpose and get it done. No matter how you feel, just know that the more nervous you are, probably the less effective you're going to be. So just try and work through it,
I want to backtrack a little bit.
Yeah.
So I've never done this. I've done live maybe once or twice. When you're live on the ground doing interviews, and Saudi, it's not that bad. It's pretty controlled. It's nice. But when you're abroad, sometimes you get, I don't want to say I don't know how to word it. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Variables?
We'll say the variables, the very interesting people that you see on the street that maybe will jump in front of the camera frame while you're doing a segment, or random interviews. How do you navigate that, especially live broadcasting?
You know what's funny, especially this digital age of content being shared around, but certainly ever since I started in radio, I always said to the newbies that came in and worked out that there are certain technologies in radio where you can actually pre-record a shift, and you think it's live when you're listening to it in your car, but that's actually been pre-recorded. And I would urge these kids to record as if you're live. You don't get to do it again, because some of the best stuff is when you do flub and mess up, because it makes you more relatable. You're human. We talk about AI. Yep. AI doesn't make mistakes. Humans make mistakes. And that's part of the charm of being a human. So even from the early days of radio, I'd always insist, hey, I know I am pre-recording this, but I'm going to pretend I'm not, because I'm not going to stop in the middle of this because it wasn't perfect, because if I was live, I wouldn't get that chance, right? Same with television. I mean, some of the best bits of content that go viral are from those very stuff-ups, from these variables and the way people handle those variables. So see them almost as a content opportunity, because the way you react is probably going to be part of why someone might share it. I would actually take a piece of content that was ruined by someone and saved. I love the imperfection of that more than just the perfect piece of camera that nothing went wrong. That's kind of boring to me. So I would say almost lean in and hope that something goes wrong.
So keep rolling.
Keep rolling.
Okay, so we talked about social media. Okay, so how do you get guests to come on? How do you make your selection? How do you approach them initially?
In this country, the pleasure has been, so in Australia, I must admit, I was more established. There were publicists, there were processes, there were emails, there were press releases. You would choose from press releases. You may have established record company reps that would bring in high-profile artists straight to you. It was almost a plug-and-play kind of turnkey. Here you go, here's the keys. There was a certain formula to it. Here, because we're pioneering what we're doing, NBC Loud is a pioneer. We are the first English-speaking radio network in Saudi Arabia. We're out there doing things that haven't been done before. We're doing a big breakfast show that's like a show. We're not just playing songs, like we're doing a show. And it hasn't been done before, which is really exciting. So there is no book. There's no booklet that tells us how to do this. So I have found that I just book guests by meeting people. You've been on the show because I met you and I asked you. You have to work the room everywhere you go. And I find social media, particularly Instagram, to be a great reference point. And that's how you tend to find people. So I might see someone on the television. I might look at the Saudi Olympic team and see that Abdul Rahman Al Raji is an equestrian representative. And I'll go, oh, we should just check his social media. Oh, he's super, super active, this guy. He loves it. He almost loves social media more than riding a horse. And you go, well, he's going to be a great guest, isn't he? And of course, you just DM. I've got a blue tick. Maybe that helps.
Maybe.
But maybe it just helps it stand out or whatever. You simply DM. You'd be surprised who replies to DMs. It can be that simple. Abdul Rahman Al Raji has been on our show several times, including literally on the morning of the opening ceremony of the Olympics. Fantastic. And don't assume that someone is just being bombarded with requests. Because everyone else is assuming that. They're probably not getting as many requests as you think. And what's the worst that can happen? You're left on red. Well, that does hurt a little bit. But if that's the worst that can happen and you just don't get a reply, you've lost a moment of your time.
Anything.
So I've kept reaching out. Obviously, with the resources of NBC, you do also have some pull because it's a great brand. Of course, that helps me because I'm with NBC and it's a well-known brand. So that helps a lot. I'm not going to lie. And in some cases, you have access to, say, big Hollywood stars through other NBC programs. Raya has been a great support and has helped me with certain interviews because she has Scoop with Raya on NBC too, and that's been such an iconic show in this part of the world for a long time. She's an icon. So, I've been able to step into her shoes a couple of times. So sometimes you're lucky and someone passes on a lead and says, would you like to do this? Yes. But for the most part, it is just grunt work. Most guests you hear on the Byron Cooke show are on because I met them when I was at an event or I hit them up on social media. None of them came to me. I went to all of them. And thankfully, the strike rate of how many people say yes is pretty good. It's pretty good.
Yeah, it is.
Which is nice. It's, you don't expect that either. As we said about ego, I'm quite happy for them to say, who are you? No, that's all right. It hasn't happened very often, which is nice. But even if it did happen, that's okay. I'm just trying to create this community and do something that hasn't been done before. But you can't wait for someone else to do it. NBC are very supportive, but we don't have 100 producers running around. We run pretty lean, which is great. So I quite like getting my hands dirty. I quite like, because the buck stops with me anyway. The show's successful or fails because of me. So why would I expect other people to do it all for me?
Sure.
So yeah, I get in there and I just go direct.
I admire how you handle rejection. I mean, I want to make the platform discussions as educational as possible. So for anyone that wants to pursue what you've done, whether it's social media, approaching people for interviews, entering the radio sector as a whole, how do you navigate rejection when you're not secured that interview or not secured that job, whatever it may be? How would you advise our audiences?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think you have to have a very thick skin to do my job, at least. One thing that's always got me through. So become very highly skilled at what you do. Keep working on your craft. Like, I still learn. There's still many things I don't know, but I am closer to the destination of being good than not. I'm pretty confident. I'm pretty confident that I can do my job well, and I believe in my own ability. And so, because I'm not just saying that to sort of feel good about myself, I inherently deep down know that I'm good at what I do. So I carry that into a meeting with an executive, not here at NBC, by the way. Honestly, they've been fantastic. But in my past career, I've had executives that will say, that bit at 7:10, not funny, not interesting. You're not funny. I've had, you're not funny. The other person you did the show with, they should tell all the stories. Yours are boring. I've had that. The only thing that got me through was my genuine belief. No, I'm good at what I do. That's your opinion. You can have the opinion. I'm good at what I do. So I'm going to keep on fronting up, maybe not on a show that you're in charge of, but I'm just going to keep fronting up because I believe in myself. So as long as it will test you. But if you believe that you're talented, if you believe that you're good enough, no one can really hurt you, because you can just say, oh, that's a shame. I know I'm good. I know it was worth asking you. I'm going to keep believing in my path, and you can't deter me from it. It's a bit of a power struggle, this thing. You can let someone's energy sort of, if it's too strong, it can squash yours. Mm-hmm. Just puff your chest up and just remind yourself, no, I'm good at this. Be good at it too. Put a lot of your energy into actually being good at it, so that when you're asking someone to be involved in whatever project that you're pursuing, whether it's a radio show or a startup or anything, hopefully you've done the work that your startup idea is a really good idea. And if someone says, no, that's lousy, you go, well, that's your opinion. You know it's good. Keep going. So that's that's what gets me through bad feedback, because we're constantly getting good and bad feedback in our line of work. And the tricky thing for us is an actor might put in a bad performance and the feedback might be, that was a bad performance when you were pretending to be someone else. With what I do, it's just like that bit you spoke about, you were talking about yourself and you were talking a story about your son. Yeah, it was boring. It wasn't funny. That's a direct
attack almost.
So it's not for the faint-hearted, but just believe in yourself and just keep going. Yeah.
It doesn't get to you though.
I mean, it can, but also try and find an environment and try and find people. Nothing's ever going to be perfect. There's no utopia. But try and find an environment where that's less likely. Don't stay in an environment where that's like the default, where like every day it's like, I'm really good at this.
It's toxic.
Yeah, like I have found, thankfully, a tribe of people here at NBC and in this country. And I'm not saying it's always been hard everywhere. I mean, I've had some great shows that I've thoroughly enjoyed. But, of course I've been in situations that are really challenging. Get out of them. There's a point in any partnership where you want to work on it and counsel and make sure if there's a way to keep this together, let's work on it. But sometimes things are just, they're not working. So you just have to accept that and hopefully find an environment where, look, critical feedback's great. I still get it all the time. It's the way it's given. So yeah, try and get out of environments that are particularly toxic, where that very question you asked me doesn't come up too often, where that scenario isn't several times a day. Yeah, I'd look at the overall. So I'm not saying quit and leave all the time, but if it's really bad, yeah, you need to get out of there.
Yeah, and then the person knows themselves. They know what they can handle, what they can't handle.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's look at the career side, back to advice-based career. So if someone, for example, just graduated university or they decided to go through the academy training route that we talked about as well for radio, how can they secure a job in the sector? What advice would you give?
Yeah, look, I like to, and I don't expect you to have it fully worked out at a very young age, but I like to know generally why you want to do this. And it's one of my favorite questions to ask a young, enthusiastic media type. Why do you want to do this? Now, if the answer is something along the lines of, I just love people, I'm a communicator, I like to make people feel good, I like to impart information, it's just something I get a rush out of, I go, oh yeah, cool. If it's, I like going to concerts and getting free tickets and, I just want to be famous, I'm not as interested in that. I want to know that you love the process. Further to that, love the process, but also understand that this is an industry where you will have to earn your stripes. I was speaking to a friend the other day who's been in a particular position for about 3 weeks. It's a good position. And this friend is getting a bit impatient. And I reminded this friend, you've been doing it for 3 weeks.
Nothing.
Work through it. Start at the bottom and know that at least in our line of work, it's going to take time. So have the passion, be in it for the right reasons. Make sure you're not there for the glamour, because it's not glamorous. I'm sure you in your line of work can look glamorous and you can look glamorous, but it's not, is it? So don't be there for the glamour. Be there because you love the process. And from that point, my advice is get in that building. I don't care what you're doing. Get in that building, because it's the relationships. The relationships are what will get you to your end destination. Get in the building. Doesn't matter what the job is. Just get in there and start to meet people. I got into the building as a salesperson, but it wasn't long before I was where I wanted to be, which was the studio with the headphones and the microphone, and I was in there. But sometimes you got to be a bit creative. So just get in there however you can.
Get in the building. I like that. From any position.
Yeah. Yep. Get in the building, honestly, because if you're outside of the building waiting for the best job in the building, there's a lot of people who've been in that building for a while and have worked their way up and have experienced a lot of things. I mean, quite often some of the best media CEOs and general managers are people who came up from being the karting kid that was, stacking CDs or whatever the case was back in the day.
The coffee boy or the mail guy, yeah.
We see this all the time. So you have to be willing to be the coffee guy or whatever. You've got to be willing to do that too, because a lot of the great people in this industry have started from those positions, and it's really worthwhile. It's actually great to see how these places run from all different angle. So yeah, get in the building.
Okay, well, let's talk about money. And I'm not asking you to get into the specifics.
Oh, the flus.
The flus, exactly. You don't need to get into any of the specifics, but can you make money as a radio host?
Of course you can. Yeah.
How? What are the ways? And how lucrative is it?
Oh, look, that'll differ on where you are, what markets you're in, what you're doing. But it is lucrative. Is that a cat? No. No, it's Abdul Rahman.
There's no more cats coming
There's no
in.
more
Go
cats.
ahead.
It'll depend. Just look at basic economics. If you're doing a radio show in, say, Abha, and it's just in Abha or in Tabuk, and it's just going to Tabuk, you might not make as much money as a syndicated radio host that's in 173 markets across the United States. So have a think about your footprint, right? And have a think about where you're heading when you look at your expectations. Do some basic sums. It wouldn't be hard to work out what's the spot rate to advertise on this radio station. How many ads am I hearing on the station? Work out roughly what their monthly revenue would be and then look at that annually and have a think about their expenses and start to look at it. There's definitely money to be made. It's not, may I say, it's never been why I do what I do. I've never really thought about it. You obviously put yourself in a position to be remunerated. But for me, it's about the process of I love what I do. I haven't actually worked a day. The odd day stressful, you might get some bad feedback. But overall, I don't feel like I've worked a day for decades. That's a nice feeling, and you can't really put a price on it. But to answer your question, it's going to be relative to the market you're in, the size of the market. I will use an example. You work hard, you work out don't have an entitlement mentality. It's not like, oh, I've turned up to this radio station, I think I'm pretty funny, so pay me $1 million. No. What would happen if you left? Because if no one cared, then you're not worth that much. So you've got to build your value, whether it's with clients, with listeners. You have to make yourself irreplaceable. You then have to work out how much money this place is making because I'm here, and would they be in a bit of trouble if I left? That's the game, right? And I know a lot of people, and I've had varying success, but I know a lot of people who, if they left where they are, that place is not doing well, which gives them the right to say, hi.
Yeah.
So it's like any industry, you know your value. And so, yes, there is money to be made, but don't just rock up and think because, you think you're pretty cool, you're going to get a bunch of money. I'll say right now to you, I don't have a private jet at this point in my early journey of Saudi Arabia. If we wanted to go to Paris after the Discussions podcast wraps up, we are booking a commercial flight.
Business or economy?
Economy, but with an exit row for legroom.
Oh, wow. Nice.
So I'm putting in perspective.
You're being realistic, and this is what's important. It's these questions, because when we go back to the original comment that you said, some people go into it to become rich and famous. You're in the wrong, yeah.
No, look, of course, I have a son. I'm thinking of the future. In the long run of what I do at where I am right now, everyone wins though. This is not talking out of school, because if I'm generating value and I know that a certain amount of revenue is directly attached to my presence on that radio station, that's good for everyone. It's up to the station to then agree to what extent it's you and to what extent. That's just a negotiation. But work for years and years and years and years to build up what we call our equity. We all have a personal brand and we have brand equity, and work out what your equity is, but you have to work for that equity. I think we've got a lot of, I don't mean to be ageist, but I do think we do have a wave of new talent coming in, whether it's into the social media space or whatever space, and there is a slight entitlement. Now, you will earn your worth based on how many millions of views you have on your whatever stuff you're doing. It's just simple supply and demand, really. So we're no different. But please don't get into radio or television for the money. I beg you, get into it because you love the process, and then by all means work out how you can make some good money.
Yeah, it's similar to journalism and media. We enter because we have a passion and we have a drive and a kind of a motive of why we're entering. The money will come. The money always comes, even later on. Like you said, if you're good at something, the money will come on its own.
And you have a way of making me want to say things I shouldn't say. But
Say it.
no, like I had a very big job in Melbourne radio. It was a very big show. And I'm not motivated by things like seeing a billboard of your face every kilometre. But this particular station had an immense marketing budget. And so if you're in that town of Melbourne and you're on that show, you are literally everywhere. Your head is everywhere, right? And I needed to just get some life balance, and I was getting up very early, and I had some very valid reasons for stopping that show. I left that show. They're all still friends of mine. There was no great drama, but I left that show at its absolute peak. And people are like, how could you do that? I mean, you're everywhere. It's like, yeah, but that's not, I do radio because I love radio, not because my head is on that billboard. I genuinely don't care. It can be a byproduct of what we do as people know who you are, but that is not even a thought. I do what I do because I love doing it every morning. I like talking into these things. I like people responding to what we're doing, but you could put pictures of me on Kingdom Tower. I'd feel pretty cool for a minute, but it's not why I do it. And so, yeah, I thought that's just an important point to make.
Yeah.
It's so fickle, all that stuff. Wasn't it an egg that had 3 million followers on Twitter or something back in the day?
It was.
Like, it's very fickle. All this
fleeting.
stuff.
It's fleeting.
It's silly. You don't get too caught up in that stuff because it's all very silly. There's a real and deeper aspect to what we do that certainly gets me out of bed at 4 a.m, and it's not because my head is on a billboard or that I think I'm famous. That would not get me up. It's the process of what I do that gets me out of bed. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not the pictures of you plastered everywhere. It's what you left people feeling with after a show, that emotion of joy, entertainment. And you know what I like? Honestly, Byron, you're impacting people's lives because they go into the office, whether they realize it or not, they have the sense of joy at times because maybe they laughed at something quirky you did on the show. And then that impacts the environment they're in, that cubicle, that office space. So it has, kind of a domino effect.
Yeah, it does. And that is the rush. And it's a nice message you get from someone saying, thanks so much. We never miss blah, blah, blah part of the show. Me and my kids love it. I had one lovely parent once say, and he was actually quite emotional. He was a father to a young, I think, 3rd or 4th grader. And he said, we love the Sana Spills segment where she does all the celebrity gossip because it sparks a conversation between myself and my daughter. And I learn about all these cool celebrities. And it actually has helped bring us together. So thank you. And you think, wow, these are the things sometimes we lose sight of. For us, it's a fun little throwaway segment, but we're delivering it with plenty of passion and, we're having fun with it. But someone on the other end of that is then having a chat to their kid of like, well, who is Blackpink? Well, Dad, I'll tell you about Blackpink and I'll tell you about these ridiculous Labubu things. And suddenly it's bringing them together. I love that. I love that about what we do.
Beautiful.
For us to bring a dad and his daughter together on their way to school because of some inane thing we're talking about, that's great. And I don't think AI is going to be able to replace that anytime soon. I love that part of what we do, or it could be someone like yourself in our studio giving us the first-hand experience of what it was like to be at that extraordinary forum that you were at.
Saudi US investment.
Yeah, yep. We can learn. It can give us a range of different emotions. It can inform, it can entertain, it could make us laugh, it could make us emotional. And we get to pull all those different levers several times an hour for 4 hours a day, 5 days a week. So that's pretty cool.
What character traits would you say are so important to have as a radio host?
Energy. You need energy because it will test you. It even tests me. And you've said to my face that you think I'm someone that has a high level of energy. But, like my day today was my alarm went off at 4. I'm here at the magnificent Al-Mashtal. I assume is there a big catering organised for me after this, big lunch?
Yeah, right next door.
Thank you. But no, we're doing this in the middle part of the day for a couple of hours. I had some post-show meetings. I'll have a couple of hours. Then I have a commitment with 40 young media students this evening where part of the course is they get to interview me tonight in the radio studio and they all get to interview me as their guest. Now I'll be doing that for an hour and a half, 2 hours. Now, that's not every day. I must say NBC treat me very well. But my point is, you know, I need a lot of energy because tonight at about 7 p.m., there's 40 kids that expect me to bring energy and I can't let them down. But I would have been going for 15 hours by then. But that's just what I've signed up for. So if you're someone that likes to have a nap or is like, oh, yeah, I don't really like to get up early, that is a pet peeve I have of people who want to be in radio but don't want to get up early. I'm sorry to break it to you, but the morning shows when people are commuting and taking kids to school and you want to be on the radio, you better at least pretend that you like getting up early, right? Have lots of energy, be willing to go the extra mile. Of course, enjoy people, enjoy communicating with people. There's nothing wrong, by the way, with wanting to zone out. If you've been 5 days a week, 6 days a week, long days, talk, listen. It's fine to want to just shut down and be an introvert for a day or two. That's fine. But your default should be extrovert, high energy. I think they're really important. And also, not that I've done a lot of it here, listening. One of the best executive producers I worked with was a guy called Brad Hume. And one of my first big radio jobs was I was the anchor of a big national comedy show on a rock network in Australia. We were on 4 or 5 cities at once, and sometimes I had as many as 5 comedians all trying to get their jokes in. And we knew we were on nationally. I was anchoring and hosting, and I had to decide when the songs were out. And the biggest thing this EP said to me was, Byron, just listen to them. Just listen and listen to what they're saying and be the ears of the listener. Because quite often in trying to get their joke out, they hadn't explained, the context was, there was no context. So I'd have to imagine being in the car and hopefully not ruining their joke, but like, hey, with that, was that this? Oh, yeah, no, yeah. What I'm talking about is this. And then suddenly I know they're running the car is back on the page.
Yeah.
So be a great listener and listen to what your callers are saying, listen to what your co-host is saying, listen to what your boss is saying. Listen, because we talk a lot, I talk a lot, but you've got to listen as well. So there are a few of the big ones.
What's the most difficult part of your job as a radio host?
At least in my type of show, you can't have a bad day. I'm sure there's a process through which I could have a mental health day or something, and I'm sure that would be embraced by NBC. There'd be no problem there. But once I walk into that studio, I'm not having a bad day, even if I am having a bad day. So that's a challenge. You're responsible for making people feel good in the morning. They don't want to hear me come in and go, oh, I'll be honest, I'm really depressed today. So you laugh.
No, I shouldn't.
Because it's not the vibe of the show. It's
not you, I know, which is terrible to say because you should be able to say I'm having a bad day. But when I think of you, I think of energy, excitement. I think of go, go, go. You're right.
The Byron Cooke Show. Oh, I just want to have a sleep. I'm not interested.
Listen to that. I would listen to that though.
Look, no, but you, for the most part, you're there to lift people who may also be having a bad day. Mm-hmm. So that is part of the challenge of maintaining that energy and that enthusiasm. We're not robots. We're not AI. So we are humans. Maybe the AI host would never have a bad day. Maybe that's why eventually they'll
tell it to have a bad day.
Tell it to have a bad day. Yeah. So that's challenging, but you remind yourself of what you signed up for, and you go, hey, I can have a bad day after the show's finished. But let's do this. And sometimes, to be honest, it can be very cathartic and quite liberating to be involved in this process of doing this show, in my case. And if there are things happening in your life, it's a great outlet. You know, immerse yourself in what you're doing. You're actually better off there than at home thinking about it. Get going and get involved in something, and you'll probably focus less on whatever it is. Now, I'm not saying those things should just be buried and not dealt with, but I'm saying in the short term, it's a nice way to get through it because you've got your mind on something else. Yeah.
We have one recurring question we ask all our guests on discussions, but before I do that, I want to do a quick rapid fire round with you, if that's okay.
Look out.
A really fun one.
Do you have any sound effects? I should have brought in my sound effects.
You should have brought
from
in
the
a
radio
mixer
show.
or something.
Yeah, okay. We'll put them into post-production.
Exactly, we can do that.
Rapid fire on discussions.
Would you have like an explosive sound effect or something?
We'll work on something.
No, that was brilliant. We'll just include that.
Welcome.
Okay, so don't think too heavily about these questions. Just respond.
Oh, I won't. It's kind of like our 5-word challenge we do where you just say the first thing that springs to mind.
That was so stressful.
Yeah, you were very good at it though.
Wasn't. Thank you.
Okay, here we go.
Okay. What's your favorite city in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia?
Jeddah. Ooh, controversial. I'm here in Riyadh.
Oh, very,
Jeddah.
Very. What's your favorite Saudi food?
Chicken kapsa. Delicious.
Okay.
Sorry. Can I redo it?
No, you can't. But go ahead.
Camel kapsa. Even more delicious.
Hashi.
Opulent.
Come on now.
Rahib.
Very local. Very local.
Oh, that was amazing.
Coffee or tea while you're working?
Coffee 100 times out of 100. That's an offensive question.
Okay. Favorite song you're listening to right now?
Right now, I would go with, wow, you really tested me because most of the time when we're playing songs, I'm just thinking about what I'm going to say next. Mm-hmm. But let's go with anything by The Weeknd. The Weeknd never misses.
Really? Okay.
So I like Cry For Me by The Weeknd at the moment. That'd be my favorite.
That's good. Favorite boy band of all time?
It's not even close. Backstreet Boys. Don't at me. Offensive question.
Okay. One radio show you wish you had hosted, any of all time.
Oh, wow. Gee, that's a brilliant question. A radio show I wished I'd hosted.
Can be currently going on or can be something, historically, previously.
Wow, that is a really good one because I've always been so focused on sort of my own product that you have your heroes.
Well, what about if you can step foot into someone else's radio show for a day? Who would you do? That might be easier to answer.
Okay, gee, that's a good question. Sometimes I'd like to be one of those really, really super opinionated American talk show hosts. That'd be fun.
Like what?
Well I mean,
super opinionated radio show.
Well, it doesn't matter about what the opinions.
Okay.
No, it doesn't matter about from what political agenda you have, but just any of those talking heads on any of those shows, the radio equivalent of your Fox News or your MSNBC. I don't care. The most polarizing, ridiculous, opinionated shock jock. Mm-hmm. Just for a day, I'd like to do that because I couldn't live with myself being that actual person. But just for a day, gee, it'd be fun because it's not in my style. But gee, it'd be fun just to say an outrageous comment just for the reaction. Because I'm convinced that a lot of these people that say these outrageous things don't even believe what they're saying.
Sometimes they don't.
They just think, you know what, if I say this, I'm going to get lots of comments and lots of engagement. So I would love to do one of those. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't matter which specific person.
I can guess.
I'll let you join the dots.
I can guess which one. Okay, favorite song of all time.
Ooh, Queen, Bohemian Rhapsody, and I think maybe by Fair Way. I think it's a fair way ahead.
Favorite segment on NBC Loud.
I like the 5-word challenge. I really do. It's almost too much fun, and it shouldn't be. And I'm terrible at it. I can't play it. I've never matched 5 words with my listener. But I love it. And people are starting to laugh at how bad I am. Mm-hmm. And that's fun. You're laughing right now thinking about how bad I was.
It wasn't you, it was me. It was so stressful.
I also like the age game, which we play on a Wednesday. I know I'm only meant to have one answer.
What's the age game?
But the age game is on a Wednesday after 8 o'clock. And you call, and myself and my producer have a competition. Who's the closest to your age? We actually tell you how old you are based on your voice.
So you guess.
Yeah,
okay.
And it can offend people because, a young person might want to be told that they sound old.
How old am I?
Why?
Do you know my age?
We're not going to play that game.
No, how old am I?
We don't normally.
From my voice.
We can't normally look at the person. The point is, it's radio and it's on the voice. Okay, I'll shut my eyes. Talk to me, Lama.
Okay. Well, I've asked you a few questions. We've covered so many different topics on discussions.
And here's what I'd say if we were on the age game. Quite honestly, I would say, right, you're one of those voices where you're very wise and you're clearly intelligent. You have a high IQ, but I'm not going to let that add years to it. So I'm going to go with 28.
Close. 26.
Bang. Almost got it.
Maybe journalism has aged me 2 years, but it's okay. Close.
See how you offend people?
Not offended.
See that? See, this is the problem with the age game. You say
Well,
28 and the 26-year-old goes, oh, I'm so offended.
I've gotten 24 and I've gotten 30. I'm not offended.
Yeah, but it's a different game. I can't shut my eyes. Anyway, play on.
You know me, but if you didn't, hypothetically.
Sure.
Okay, so traditional radio schooling or learning in the field as you go?
Combination of both.
Okay.
Start with your building blocks and then get out there as quickly as you can and learn the real way to do it. But start with some level of training, I think, is helpful.
Okay.
Not critical, but helpful.
Last question. What did you think of this interview on Discussions?
I loved it. But I love you. I just think you're brilliant. So, I mean,
Thank you.
It was actually genuinely lovely to be invited because I understand the caliber of guests you've had. So,
No,
it
you're
is
equal. You're right up there.
well. No,
you're an
but
expert in your sector.
as someone who's new to this country and someone of your level of what you've achieved in journalism, and so I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I love that balance that you have. It is obviously an important conversation. I don't want to break it to people, but you are so much fun and you are hilarious. And if anything, you should probably be a comedian.
Should I?
That's
I don't know. It's a dry sense of humor.
That's the thing that people don't understand about this one, Lama. So it's always an education, but it's always a lot of fun. And you come in and carry on with all our circus acts on NBC
it's
Loud.
A balance.
And it's great. So I've thoroughly enjoyed it. And
we're not done yet. We have one more.
Oh, so I was waiting for the camel capsa. No, that
That's
comes
a good
afterwards.
closing. We have just back to the reoccurring question that we have on Discussions. So as a radio host, as the host of the Byron Cooke Show on NBC Loud, what's one piece of advice you would give someone wanting to follow in your footsteps?
Don't follow too quickly because I just want to keep my job for a few more years. Beyond that, I would say, as I might have touched on earlier in our conversation, do this stuff because you love the idea of what it can do for people. Think about what it gives rather than what you can get, right? That would be my biggest honest piece of advice. If you're excited by the fact that you're giving something, then come and take my job. If you're all about what you can take and how many free concerts can I go to and how many billboards is my head going to be on and how many followers will I have on TikTok, not it. So that would be my genuine thought on that. You do it for the love of giving to other people and the thrill of creating a community and then sustaining that community and hopefully growing that community.
Byron, this was amazing. Honestly, I couldn't think of a better way to end the episode. Your advice was so genuine and it really resonated with me because within journalism, we were doing it for a passion. We're doing it because we're genuinely driven to help people, to give them a voice. And you're doing exactly that. You're bringing joy into people's lives, into their cars, into their office spaces. Keep going. You're honestly a natural. And I think you're way underselling yourself. You're an expert in this
part
sector.
of the humility.
It
It's
is.
all a big
I like
facade. No, I'm kidding. But no. You are quite something. And if I have my way, you will spend more time in NBC Loud. But those negotiations will take place.
It's up there. Who knows? We'll see.
Yes, good stuff.
Byron, thank you so much for joining me on Discussions. It's been a true honor and a privilege.
Have fun.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. I look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Cut.